Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Patch Notes, the show where we cover the biggest gaming news from the previous week in a nice bit-sized package. My name is Drew and as always, it's great to see you guys. This episode we're covering the news from the week of September 22nd, 2017. This week, we got a glimmer of hope that console crossplay is possible, a console exec got a big promotion, and a game with a sizable cult following has finally bitten the dust. Let's go ahead and get into it. Earlier this week, Randy Varnell from Gearbox announced that they would be ceasing all development on future content for their first-person MOBA-like game, Battleborn. The game will continue to have live servers, and it will still be supported by the developer officially, but the team is just moving on to other projects. It just won't see any new content. Battleborn has had a rocky history since even before its launch. Due to Battleborn's art style, people started quickly comparing it to Overwatch and stating that Gearbox was actually trying to get a cash grab on the big Overwatch craze, considering that game was hugely successful. And Battleborn could never really shake off this mentality that it was just a shameless Overwatch clone. And so it launched to less than stellar numbers that fell even further after launch. The game is notorious for being put on a 50% sale on all platforms just weeks after launch to try to compete with Overwatch. The game never fully recovered from this misinformation, and it's been an uphill battle ever since launch. That's where this announcement comes in. Despite the fact that a few months ago a free-to-play version of the competitive mode in the game would be released, the surge in player base obviously didn't do much to save this game's numbers. Even with a free-to-play trial, as they like to call it, it wasn't enough players to keep content flowing. But I don't think this has to do much with the game's success. I mean, even if it was successful initially, I still think we would see this drop-off of support. Gearbox has been teasing for weeks now that they're working on a highly anticipated sequel, and so they took the developers from Battleborn and shifted them to focus on this new project. Even though it's pretty obvious what Gearbox is working on, we know it's Borderlands 3, we're not stupid. It still sucks that the small but passionate community behind this game really has nothing else to look forward to. Now let me get this out of the way. I'm not the biggest fan of Battleborn, but it's mostly because I don't like MOBA games in general. It's just not my kind of game. But with that said, I do think that Battleborn is the most fun I've had with the genre, and I think that's saying something. Also, I hate the fact that Battleborn still gets compared to Overwatch constantly, despite the fact that Paladins, a blatant carbon copy of Overwatch, exists. Paladins doesn't get nearly the amount of flack that Battleborn got, but that's probably because it's free or whatever, but I think it's actually worse of a copy than Battleborn ever was. Yes, I know that the abilities for the characters are shuffled around and not every single character is exactly the same, but come on! I just really don't want to play Paladins and support this blatant copying that's going on because they really didn't even try that much. The game runs great, and yeah, it's a thriving community because it's free, but I mean, come on, it's like shameless. But anyway, Battleborn isn't a terrible game. It just suffered from very bad marketing and being compared to one of the most significant games of this generation. And even though the servers are going to stay live, I would not be surprised if the player base just drops significantly after this. I mean, it's basically a death sentence. But hopefully they can at least keep higher player counts than Lawbreakers. Yeesh.
The people need you. Rescue survivors and give them a home. Defend them with everything you've got. Don't seek shelter. Make it.
Earlier this week, Reddit user Precision was playing a PS4 session of Fortnite before he started to realize something a little fishy. The people he was playing with had gamer tags that weren't possible on PlayStation Network because for usernames on PlayStation Network, you can't have spaces, you have to use underscores. After seeing this and thinking it was just a glitch like anybody else would, he looked them up on PlayStation Network and couldn't find anything. He then looked them up on Xbox Live and figured out that they do have profiles and they do in fact play Fortnite. So after all this sleuthing around, he figured out that the only logical conclusion was that Fortnite actually had crossplay functionality. And more people started coming out saying, yes, I've been playing with Xbox players on PlayStation 4, so this was a feature that was activated for some reason. So was Epic, the developers of Fortnite, trying to undercut Sony and Microsoft's bickering back and forth and just trying to sprout this new kind of movement secretly? Well, not exactly. Epic later came out and announced it was just an accident and that they're going to turn the feature off at the request of some of the parties involved. I'm sure it's messing with Sony's terms of service or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody at Sony saw this and went into full panic mode because they've been firmly planted on the idea that they don't want to have crossplay with Xbox. The reason I place most of the blame on Sony is because Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, actually went to Twitter and said that he wished they would leave the feature on. If you remember Sony's statement on crossplay from a few episodes ago that I discussed, you would see that when actual crossplay is in action, it's not really nearly as destructive as Sony had initially argued. It's mostly harmless and simply allows the game's player base to grow even further with more people to be able to play with each other. I've said it before, it doesn't matter who was for crossplay or not for crossplay in the past. Right now, all that matters is that there are a bunch of people who are open to crossplay. We're just waiting on Sony to give the go-ahead. So damn it, Sony, just let it happen already, at least in certain cases. Just test it out, try it. Oh, and by the way, Fortnite's Battle Royale mode, which is a blatant copy of PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, if you don't know what that is, which... how do you not know what that is? But yeah, it's going to be free to play without having to own the actual game itself to everybody starting September 26th. Now, I know this is pretty similar to what I was just saying about Paladins, but hear me out. Fortnite at least tries to do things a little differently. I mean, it has more arcadey gameplay, you see damage numbers when you hit people. There's also a base construction mechanic, and you have to gather materials around the world to be able to build in the game, and that can actually provide advantages or even disadvantages for players, so I think it adds a different layer to it, to the gameplay. I think there's enough for Fortnite to differentiate itself that it's going to be the fun arcadey version of Battle Royale, whereas PUBG can stay over here as the realistic, very serious Battle Royale game. Also keep in mind that this is going to be free to play and available to people on consoles, which PUBG is not either of those right now. So yeah, this will be a good alternative for some people. So yeah, since we just talked about Phil Spencer in the last story, I feel like it'd be pretty fitting to talk about his most recent promotion to the senior leadership team over at Microsoft. This position means that he will be representing Xbox and will be reporting directly to the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. And this shows just how significant Xbox is to the Microsoft brand overall. Spencer started as just an intern at Microsoft, eventually working his way up until he became the head of the Xbox Game Studio division in 2008. Then in 2014, he was made the head of the Xbox division, which put him in charge of not just the games, but the console itself and even the PC market. While many would argue that it's starting to be apparent that not much has happened since Phil has taken the lead, I would say at least you can't deny the guy is a gamer at heart. I would much rather have someone like him in charge rather than someone like Don Matrick, who seemingly just didn't give a shit about gamers at all. So congrats, Phil. Now get to work on getting some damn exclusives out there. And that's it for this week's episode. Let me know what you guys think of this new microphone setup. I can switch back to the old one. I don't know, I feel like this one could potentially be less echoey. I'm kind of in a echoey room. Also, I just want to let you guys know that the comment sections of these videos frequently have updates from you guys in the community and myself, kind of updating the stories as they go on, so I don't have to kind of re-edit the video and re-upload the video when something happens. So go ahead and join the discussion down there and leave a like on this video if you liked it. Also, if you like this content, be sure to subscribe because it supports our channel and you'll be able to see this kind of stuff every single week because we do patch notes every week. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to wait for the end cards that's going to come up in a second to see what YouTube recommends for you guys and also to get the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.